The day my sister-in-law and her husband got into a car accident, I had just finished my 32-week prenatal checkup. The doctor said the fetal position was good, the baby was healthy, and told me to relax and not overexert myself. As I walked out of the hospital, clutching the examination report, my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law calling. On the phone, she was crying so hard she could barely catch her breath, saying Shen Jianing was gone, her brother-in-law was gone too. The two of them had been rear-ended by an out-of-control truck on the highway. Their car caught fire on the spot, and by the time they were rescued, they were beyond recognition. Shen Jianing was my husband Lu Huaizhou's only biological sister. She and her husband left behind a 10-year-old daughter named Shen Xinghe. My mother-in-law said that Xinghe now has no father or mother, and the Lu family cannot just stand by and do nothing. She wants me and Lu Huaizhou to take Shen Xinghe into our home and raise her as our own daughter. At that moment, I rested my hand on my stomach and remained silent for a long time. I've met Shen Xinghe a few times. She is very beautiful, with big eyes, fair skin, and a smile that resembles a doll in a shop window. Every time she sees me, she obediently calls out, "Auntie." She pours water for me and touches my belly, saying, "The little sister will definitely like me a lot in the future." I used to think she was just a somewhat sensitive child who was very good at reading people's expressions, so when my mother-in-law brought it up, I wasn't entirely unable to accept it. After all, the child has lost both parents and is truly pitiful. But just as I was about to say, "Let me discuss it with Huaizhou," lines of faint gray text suddenly appeared before my eyes. It was as if someone was writing reminders in the air right in front of me. Don't agree. Shen Xinghe is not a pitiful creature. She is a malevolent spirit wearing a child's skin. She will wait until you fall asleep during your postpartum confinement, then carry your daughter to the balcony and let the child fall from the 26th floor. You will think it was the negligence of the confinement nanny, driving you to the brink of insanity. Lu Huaizhou, in his efforts to care for her and handle your funeral arrangements, will ultimately be pushed down the stairs by her, ending up in a vegetative state. She inherited the money you left behind, and after coming of age, she used the compensation and property to live a thriving life. I stood frozen at the hospital entrance. The summer wind brushed against my face, yet it felt as cold as ice. My mother-in-law was still crying on the phone. "Wanqing, I know you're about to give birth, but Xinghe is already 10 years old and won't be much trouble. She can wash dishes, sweep the floor, and in the future, she can even help you look after the baby. You and Huaizhou are well off with a big house. Isn't it easy to give her a room?" My palms instantly broke out in a cold sweat. I looked down at my heavily swollen belly and suddenly felt terrifyingly clear-headed. Feeling pity is one thing, my child is another matter entirely. I cannot gamble my daughter's life on whether a child is truly that bad or not, so I heard myself say in a trembling yet firm voice, "Mom, no, I'm about to give birth, and it's not suitable to take in another child at home. We can provide money for Xinghe's situation, but she cannot move in." My mother-in-law was silent on the other end of the line for a few seconds. She probably didn't expect that I, who had always been easy to talk to, would refuse so firmly. Her crying stopped, and her tone grew serious. "Wanqing, what do you mean by that? Xinghe is not an outsider. She is the bloodline of Huaizhou's late sister." I gripped my phone tightly, trying my best to stay calm. "I know she's not an outsider, which is why I said we can contribute financially. She can continue living with you all, and we'll cover the monthly living expenses, tuition, tutoring fees, clothes, and snacks. But I'm in my 3rd trimester now, about to give birth, and it's not suitable to have another 10-year-old child at home." My mother-in-law seemed to have heard something absurd. "What's wrong with being 10? 10 is when they start to understand things. She's not 2 or 3 years old, needing you to hold her and feed her. Besides, after you give birth, you'll need someone to lend a hand. Xinghe has been well behaved since she was little. Having her help you fetch diapers or pass you a bottle is much better than hiring an outsider, isn't it?" My heart felt heavy as I listened. The phrase, "lend a hand," from her mouth sounded so casual, yet the words before my eyes, line by line, sent chills down my spine. Don't be fooled by her. She's best at pretending to be obedient. Her first time harming someone was when she was 7 years old. Her mother was pregnant with a second child and about to give birth, so she deliberately spilled oil on the stairs. Everyone thought it was an accident. I held my breath. Shen Xinghe's mother, who is also my sister-in-law Shen Jianing, did indeed become pregnant with a second child, but that child was not kept. Before I got married, I heard Lu Huaizhou mention it once, saying that Shen Jianing fell at home when she was 7 months pregnant. The adult was saved, but the child was lost. After that, Shen Jianing's health was never very good, and the doctor said there were risks if she became pregnant again. That's why she and her brother-in-law only raised Shen Xinghe. Back then, the whole family said that Shen Jianing had a hard life, but if the words before me are true, that fall might not have been an accident at all. My throat tightened. My mother-in-law was still trying to persuade me. Wan Qing, you can't be so selfish, you're about to become a mother yourself. How can you not feel for a child who has no mother? I closed my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, I saw my own reflection in the hospital's glass door, pale, yet calm. Mom, I feel for her, so I'm willing to pay, but I also feel for the child in my belly. I won't bring her into our home. My mother-in-law finally got angry. You're an outsider. What right do you have to make decisions for the Liu family? I couldn't hold back any longer. Then let Huaizhou decide for himself. If he insists on bringing Shen Xinghe here, I'll move out. My mother-in-law gasped sharply. You're threatening me with leaving home? No, I said, I'm protecting myself and the child. With that, I hung up the phone directly. When the phone screen went dark, I realized my fingers were trembling violently. I stood leaning against the pillar at the hospital entrance for a long time. The little one inside me seemed to sense my unease and gave a gentle kick. I lowered my head and gently stroked my belly. Baby, Mommy won't let anyone hurt you. I didn't tell Lu Huaizhou about the words I saw right away when I got home that day. It was just too absurd. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it myself. I only told him about the phone call from my mother-in-law. Lu Huaizhou is the project manager at the Architectural Design Institute. He's usually busy with work, has a gentle personality, and rarely gets into arguments with me. After listening, he remained silent for a long time. I looked at him, feeling my heart sink bit by bit. Sure enough, the first thing he said was, Wan Qing, Xinghe is truly pitiful. I sat on the sofa, pressing my hand against my stomach, and asked him coldly, so what? Lu Huaizhou crouched down in front of me, softening his tone. I'm not trying to force you, it's just that Jianing only has this one child. Now that Jianing and her husband are gone, and our parents are old and in poor health, Xinghe stayed with them, and no one really looked after her. She's only 10 years old. I stared into his eyes. I'm about to give birth too. Our child is also very young. Lu Huaizhou was taken aback. I continued, if you want to help Shen Xinghe, that's fine. Give her money every month, transfer her to a new school, hire a psychological counselor for her, find a boarding school for her. We can even visit her on weekends, but letting her live in our home is not an option. Lu Huaizhou frowned. Why are you reacting so strongly? Didn't you like Xinghe before? Of course I liked her. I bought her princess dresses, watercolor pens, and ordered birthday cakes for her. She would always hug me and say, Auntie is the best. But now, thinking back on those overly sensible eyes, I only feel a chill. I can't say I saw those words. I can only put it another way. I had a dream. Lu Huaizhou froze. What dream? I dreamed she hurt our child. Lu Huaizhou's expression turned helpless. Wan Qing, dreams are the opposite. I looked at him and suddenly felt very tired. You don't have to believe in dreams, but you have to believe in my attitude. Shen Xinghe cannot move in. If you insist on taking her in, I'll take the child and leave. Lu Huaizhou didn't try to persuade me again that night. He called his mother back and said we weren't in a position to take Shen Xinghe in right now, but we would cover the expenses in the future. I sat at the dining table and heard his lowered voice coming from the balcony. At first, it was relatively calm. Later, the voice grew softer and softer, mixed with a few phrases like, Mom, don't be like this, it's not Wan Qing forcing me, and, she's about to give birth. After that, it seemed like the person on the other end of the phone had switched to my father-in-law. I heard Lu Huaizhou remain silent for a long time. When he returned to the living room, his expression was very unpleasant. I asked, what did your dad say? He rubbed his temples. Dad thinks I shouldn't have refused. He said Xinghe is a child of the Shen family and also a grandson of the Liu family, so he can't be left outside to be laughed at. I sneered. The so-called being laughed at means they can't raise him themselves, but they're afraid others will say they don't care, so they want to push the child onto us. Lu Huaizhou didn't speak. He understood in his heart. Grandma is in poor health, and Grandpa injured his back working on construction sites when he was young. In recent years, his temper has grown increasingly strange. They live in an old house in the county town, relying on their pensions to get by. After Shen Jianing and her brother-in-law passed away, the compensation and insurance money were temporarily held by the grandmother. In theory, Shen Xinghe is not without someone to care for her. My in-laws' thinking was quite simple. They didn't want to spend too much effort. nor did they want to face a child who might have psychological issues every day. Meanwhile, Lu Huizhou and I had a house in the city, a stable income, and I was about to give birth, after which we would hire a confinement nanny. In their eyes, our place was simply the most suitable option. I looked at Lu Huizhou. We'll cover the expenses and take care of daily needs, but bringing him into our home is out of the question, Lu Huizhou whispered. I know, yet his "I know" did not put me at ease, because those words appeared again before my eyes. He agreed now because he thinks you're pregnant and shouldn't be upset. After the child is born, he will gradually soften his heart. He will first let Xinxinghe stay on weekends, then during holidays, and eventually let her stay long-term, boiling a frog in warm water. Never let the first step happen. I stared at those words, feeling a chill creeping through my heart inch by inch. It turns out the real terror isn't being forced by others, it's the people around you, under the guise of, just for a while, or, just helping out, slowly pushing you to give in. The next morning, my mother-in-law started frantically calling me. I didn't answer. She sent another message. Wanqing, Xinghe cried all night last night, saying her aunt doesn't want her, she already has no mother. How could you bear to make her feel abandoned again? You're a woman yourself. If your own daughter ever faced something like this, how would you want others to treat her? I stared at the screen, my fingers pausing for a long time. If it weren't for those words, I might have been stung by these remarks, but now, I just find it absurd. Why does my daughter have to go through something like this? Why should she be bound to the tragic fate of a stranger's child? I replied to her, Mom, my stance won't change, please stop emotionally blackmailing me. After sending the message, my mother-in-law didn't reply. At noon, Lu Huizhou called me. He sounded exhausted. Wanqing, did Mom send you a message? She did. Don't take it to heart, she's just anxious. I chuckled. She's in a hurry, so I have to give in. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Silence on the other end of the phone. I suddenly don't want to beat around the bush anymore. Lu Huizhou, if you think I'm cold-blooded, if you think I'm heartless, then let's make it clear right now. You can choose Xinxinghe, but I will definitely choose our child. Lu Huizhou grew anxious. Wanqing, don't keep saying things like that. I'm not saying it lightly. My voice was calm. I'm giving you a bottom line. He took a deep breath on the other end of the line. After a moment, he said, I won't bring Xinghe home. Just focus on taking care of yourself during the pregnancy. I hung up the phone, but felt no peace of mind. In the afternoon, I contacted a college classmate who works as a lawyer. I didn't mention the words, only asked her, if a couple has a serious disagreement over whether to raise a relative's child, can the pregnant wife file for divorce? The classmate was very surprised. What happened between you and Lu Huizhou? Don't ask for now. She paused and said, during pregnancy, the man cannot file a lawsuit, but the woman can. If you really plan to do this, make sure to keep evidence, including chat records, recordings, threats of domestic violence, and the like. Additionally, after the child is born, custody will most likely be awarded to you. I said thank you. After hanging up the phone, I took screenshots of all my mother-in-law's messages and did my best to record the calls between Lu Huizhou and his parents. I never imagined that one day I would have to guard against my own husband and his family in this way, but the child is in my belly. I cannot afford to be naive. On the evening of the third day, Lu Huizhou returned earlier than usual. He was carrying my favorite sugar-roasted chestnuts and a box of bird's nest. In the past, I would have laughed at him for wasting money, but that day, as I looked at those things, I only felt a tightness in my heart. He peeled the chestnuts and handed them to me. Don't be angry anymore, okay? I didn't answer. Lu Huizhou sighed. I've already made it clear to my parents, Xinghe won't be staying at our house. I looked up at him. Did they agree? No. What's the use of you explaining it clearly? Lu Huizhou pursed his lips. I will handle it. When he said this, his gaze flickered away. I caught it. After getting pregnant, I often feel tired easily, but at that moment, my mind was unusually clear. Do you have other plans? He fell silent. My heart sank. Lu Huizhou, speak. He seemed to be backed into a corner, finally whispering, I want to find a private boarding school in the city for Xinghe. Let her come to the city for school first, stay at the school during the week, and have her parents pick her up on weekends, or I'll go see her. I stared at him, almost laughing in frustration. Do you think there's any difference between this and bringing her to the city? There's a big difference, he hurriedly explained. She doesn't live with us. What about now? What about weekends, winter and summer vacations? What if she gets sick? What about school holidays? Lu Huizhou frowned. Wanqing, you can't always assume the worst in every situation. I said word by word, because once something bad happens, the price is my child. He looked at me, a hint of hurt in his eyes. Why are you so against Xinghe? She's just a child. This line again, she's just a child, as if children don't get jealous, don't lie, don't hurt people. I suddenly asked him, do you remember Jianning's miscarriage 7 years ago? Lu Huizhou froze. Why bring this up all of a sudden? Why did she fall back then? The stairs were slippery. Who said that? That's what everyone in the family says. Did you see it with your own eyes? Lu Huizhou's expression changed. Wan Qing, what do you mean? I know I have no evidence, but I still can't help asking, who else was at home that day? Lu Huizhou's voice deepened. Xinghe. I looked at him without saying a word. He suddenly stood up. You suspect a 3-year-old child caused her mother's miscarriage. My heart skipped a beat. 3 years old. The words before my eyes say 7 years old. Did I remember the time wrong, or is what's written in those words not the same thing I know? I immediately pressed further. How old was Xinghe when Jianning had the miscarriage? She was just over 3 years old. Lu Huizhou's voice carried a suppressed anger. At that time, she could barely even speak clearly. How could you think of her that way? I froze. Could those words have been wrong? Has Shen Jianning been in trouble more than once? Soon, the gray text floated before my eyes again. It's not Shen Jianning, it's Shen Xinghe's biological mother. Shen Jianning is not her biological mother. I shuddered all over. This sentence struck like a thunderbolt. Shen Xinghe is not Shen Jianning's biological child. How is this possible? I've been married to Lu Huizhou for 2 years, and no one has ever mentioned this matter. Everyone says Shen Xinghe is the child of Shen Jianning and her brother-in-law, but the words continue to scroll. Shen Xinghe is the child of the brother-in-law and his ex-girlfriend. After giving birth to her, the ex-girlfriend came to the door, forcing the man to acknowledge her as his own. In order to maintain her marriage, Shen Jianning swallowed her pride and took the child back to raise. Later, when her ex-girlfriend accidentally fell from a building, Shen Xinghe was officially brought back to the Shen family. From a young age, she knew that crying worked, pretending to be obedient worked, and making adults feel guilty was the most effective. My heart was beating so fast it felt like it was about to burst out of my chest. If this is true, then the Lu family has concealed far too many things. I asked Lu Huizhou, is Shen Xinghe really Jianning's biological child? His expression completely changed. In that moment, I already knew the answer. He did not deny it, he just stiffly asked, who told you? I smiled. So they all knew, only I didn't know. Seeing my expression change, Lu Huizhou quickly explained, Wan Qing, this matter is quite complicated. Back then, Jianning decided to adopt Xinghe and treated her as her own daughter. The family was afraid that outsiders would gossip, so no one mentioned it. Then why didn't you tell me? I don't think it's necessary. Unnecessary. My fingertips trembled with anger. You want to shove her into my home, yet you think her background is unnecessary to tell me. Lu Huizhou grew anxious. A person's background doesn't define whether a child is bad. Did I say she was bad? I stared at him. I'm just asking, how many more things are you hiding from me? He couldn't answer. That night, we had our first big fight. In the end of the argument, my stomach tightened, and a sharp, dragging pain shot through my lower abdomen. Lu Huizhou was terrified and immediately helped me lie down, then called the obstetrician. The doctor advised monitoring the fetal movements and going to the hospital if the pain persisted. I lay in bed, listening as Lu Huizhou repeatedly apologized beside me, but there was no softness in my heart. I only felt a lingering fear. A child whose background was concealed layer by layer, growing up in a complex family, a child who likely knew how to exploit adults' guilt, plus those eerie reminders. I couldn't possibly let her get close to my daughter. I thought after that night, Lu Huizhou would at least quiet down for a while. As it turned out, I underestimated his parents' obsession. At 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. I was in the bedroom folding the newly bought little clothes for the baby. Lu Huizhou had gone downstairs to pick up a package, so I was the only one at home. When the doorbell rang for the first time, I thought it was the neighbor. The second ring, the third ring, growing more urgent. I walked to the entrance hall, holding my waist, and was about to look through the peephole when the gray text suddenly appeared before my eyes. Don't open the door. Outside are your in-laws and Shen Xinghe. They brought suitcases, planning to stay for now. Once they enter, they won't leave. My hand froze on the doorknob. Almost at the same time, my mother-in-law's voice sounded outside the door. Wan Qing, open the door. It's Mom. I held my breath and looked through the peephole. Indeed, my mother-in-law stood at the front, her face showing a weary yet resolute expression. My father-in-law stood behind her, dragging 2 large suitcases in his hands. Shen Xinghe was wearing a white dress, carrying a pink backpack, and standing quietly to the side. She lowered her head, looking like a little kitten drenched in the rain. If it weren't for those words, I might have softened, but at this moment, I only felt a churning in my stomach. The mother-in-law rang the doorbell again. "Wan Qing, I know you're home, open the door first, let's talk inside." I didn't say a word. I slowly retreated to the living room and picked up my phone to call Lu Huaizhou. It rang twice before he answered. "What's wrong?" "Your parents brought Shen Xinghe here, they're right outside," the voice on the other end of the phone clearly panicked. "What, they brought luggage?" Lu Huaizhou's voice immediately grew urgent. "Don't open the door, I'll be right back," I said coldly. "You'd better hurry." Patience outside the door was quickly running out. The mother-in-law began knocking on the door. "Wan Qing, what do you mean by this? The elders are here, and you won't open the door." My father-in-law's voice grew even louder. "She has no manners at all. Huaizhou marrying such a woman is truly the worst luck in 8 lifetimes. I sat on the sofa and turned on my phone's voice recorder. The father-in-law's insults grew increasingly harsh. "She's just a pregnant woman, yet she acts like she's some kind of ancestor. This is the Lu family's house. What right does she have to keep us out? Once the child is born, it will carry the Lu family name. What gives her the right to block the Lu family?" I touched my stomach, feeling both angry and cold inside. This apartment was indeed bought by Lu Huaizhou before our marriage, but after we got married, we paid off the mortgage together and added many things to it. More importantly, I am the mistress of this household. They have never treated me as an equal person. In their eyes, I am just a woman meant to bear children for the Lu family. Outside the door, Shen Xinghe suddenly spoke up. Her voice was soft and trembling, on the verge of tears. "Grandma, forget it. Aunt doesn't like me. I can go back." Grandma immediately felt heartbroken. "Silly child, your aunt is just confused for now. Your uncle won't abandon you." Grandpa snorted coldly. "Let her try not to take it." I stared at the phone's recording interface, my fingers icy cold. More than 10 minutes later, Lu Huaizhou rushed back. As soon as the elevator doors opened, I heard my mother-in-law's cries grow louder. "Huaizhou, you're finally back. Look at your wife, locking us out like we're thieves." Lu Huaizhou lowered his voice. "Dad, Mom, why are you here? Didn't I say we'd discuss this later?" The father-in-law angrily said. "What's there to discuss? I've brought the person, and they're staying here today." Lu Huaizhou, "No." There was a moment of silence outside the door. I was also taken aback. This time, Lu Huaizhou surprisingly didn't give in immediately. The mother-in-law cried even harder. "Huaizhou, Xing he just lost her parents. Are you going to abandon her too?" Shen Xing he also sobbed. "Uncle, am I really that annoying? Should I not even be alive?" As soon as these words were spoken, Lu Huaizhou clearly panicked. I heard him crouch down to comfort her. "No, Xinghe, don't say that." Gray text floated before my eyes. "Look, she's starting again. She knows adults are most afraid of her saying such things. She'll use self-harm to threaten, forcing everyone to back down." My heart sank inch by inch. Lu Huaizhou's voice sounded weary. "Mom, Dad, come downstairs with me first. I'll take you to get something to eat. Xinghe hasn't had breakfast yet either." "Right," mother-in-law refused. "Let's go inside first." Lu Huaizhou's tone grew more serious. "Wan Qing is about to give birth. She can't handle any stress." The father-in-law cursed. In the end, he was persuaded into the elevator by Lu Huaizhou. After they left, I didn't relax, because I knew this was only temporary. Sure enough, an hour later, Lu Huaizhou sent me a message. "I'll take them to the hotel first. Xinghe is very emotionally unstable. I'll be back later." I replied to him, "You'd better remember your promise. Shen Xinghe cannot move in." Lu Huaizhou replied quickly, "I know." I looked at those 3 words, but my heart grew colder and colder, because for some people, knowing can never withstand a single tearful plea from family. That night, Lu Huaizhou returned home very late. I haven't slept at all. When he came in, he carried the smell of cigarettes on him. He doesn't usually smoke much, unless he's under a lot of pressure. I sat on the living room sofa, watching him. He paused while changing his shoes, like a student who had done something wrong. "Why aren't you asleep yet?" I asked. "Where are they?" "They've been taken to a hotel." "Where is Shen Xinghe?" "Also at the hotel." I stared into his eyes. "What about tomorrow?" Lu Huaizhou fell silent for a few seconds. My heart skipped a beat. He walked up to me and spoke softly. "Wan Qing, Xinghe is really not in a good state right now. She keeps crying, saying she's afraid that when she wakes up, no one will want her anymore." I consulted a psychologist, and the doctor said she just lost both parents, so she shouldn't be moved around too frequently. I sneered. "So, I want her to stay at our place for a couple of days first. I stood up abruptly, my stomach was too heavy, and I stood up too quickly, causing my vision to go dark for a moment. Lu Huizhou hurriedly reached out to support me. I shook off his hand. Lu Huizhou, are you deaf to human speech? He also got anxious. It's just 2 days, today it's 2 days, tomorrow it'll be a week, and the day after that it'll be long term. No, what guarantee do you have? His voice lowered. I promise. I laughed until my eyes stung. How much is your promise worth? Those words made Lu Huizhou's face turn pale. He looked at me. Wan Qing, I know pregnancy is hard for you, and I know you're sensitive right now, but Xinghe is just a child. What could she possibly do to you? I spoke word by word. What she could do to my child. Lu Huizhou closed his eyes, as if suppressing his anger. Why do you have to think of her as so malicious? Because I don't want to regret it, just because of a dream. I didn't say a word, indeed, to him. It was just a dream, for me. It's those reminders that come from nowhere, the countless tragic endings that could happen. I have no way to prove it, but I also have no obligation to prove it with my daughter's life. I turned and went back to the bedroom, taking out the suitcase I had prepared long ago. Lu Huizhou froze. What are you doing? Move out. His expression instantly changed. Where can you go with such a big belly now? My premarital house. That apartment was bought by my parents for me, a small 2-bedroom unit, not too far from where I currently live. It has been rented out since the marriage. A few days ago, I contacted the tenant to terminate the lease, paid the penalty for breach of contract, and had it cleaned by housekeeping. It's ready to move in at any time. Lu Huizhou clearly didn't expect me to be prepared. He blocked the doorway. No, you can't leave. Then don't let Xinghe come in. He looked at me in pain. Do you have to force me? I looked up, calmly gazing at him. It's not me forcing you, it's your entire family forcing me. A struggle flashed in Lu Huizhou's eyes. Just then, his phone rang. He glanced at it. It was his mother-in-law calling. He hesitated before answering. The speakerphone wasn't on, but the living room was too quiet, and I still heard my mother-in-law's crying. Huizhou, Xinghe is missing. Lu Huizhou's face changed dramatically. What do you mean by missing? The mother-in-law cried out. She left a note saying no one wants her anymore, and she's going to find her mother. Lu Huizhou panicked instantly, grabbed his car keys, and rushed out. Before leaving, he turned back to look at me. Wan Qing, please don't make a scene right now. I'm going to find Xinghe. I watched his retreating figure, my heart completely chilled. I wasn't making a scene from start to finish. I was only holding on to my bottom line, but in his heart, Xinghe's disappearance was a big deal. My child and I were just throwing a tantrum. After Lu Huizhou left, the gray text appeared again. She hasn't gone far, hiding in the hotel's fire escape. She knew everyone would be looking for her. She wanted to prove that as soon as she cried and made a scene, Lu Huizhou would abandon you. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Half an hour later, Lu Huizhou sent a message. Found it. She had an emotional breakdown, so I'm staying with her at the hotel tonight. I only replied with 2 words, as you wish. Then, I called a moving company. At 1 in the morning, the moving company workers arrived at the door. I took all my clothes, documents, prenatal checkup records, and baby supplies with me. Before leaving, I took one last look at the home I had lived in for 2 years. In the kitchen, there were still the prenatal calcium supplements Lu Huizhou had bought for me. Baby's little socks are hanging on the balcony. Our wedding photo hangs on the wall, and in the picture, I am smiling with great happiness. But sometimes happiness shatters very quickly, so quickly that it only takes one person who shouldn't have entered and a husband who can't see things clearly. When I closed the door, tears finally fell, but I did not look back. On the first day of moving into the premarital house, I hardly slept all night. Not out of regret, it was because my body was too tired, and my heart was too tense. The cleaning has been done, the house is tidy, but having been unoccupied for so long, there's still a faint, empty smell lingering in the air. I sat on the living room floor mat, putting the baby's little clothes into the cabinet one by one. When I folded a pink onesie, I suddenly started crying. I had imagined many times what it would be like after the baby was born. Lu Huizhou would wait for me outside the delivery room, would clumsily hold our daughter, would take many photos of her, and would get up at night to prepare her milk. We would have arguments, and we would also feel exhausted, but we would get through it together. I never imagined that before our child was even born, her father would already prioritize another child's emotions over her safety. The next morning, Lu Huizhou finally realized I had moved out. He called, his voice urgent and hoarse. Wan Qing, where are you? I said, my own home. How could you move out in the middle of the night? Do you have any idea how dangerous that is? Hearing this concern, I suddenly found it ironic. Is it more dangerous than Xingha moving in? He froze. After a few seconds, he whispered, Xingha really almost had an accident last night. She didn't have an accident, I said. She just made everyone think she would. Lu Huaizhou's tone carried displeasure. Don't speak of a child like that. I closed my eyes. Lu Huaizhou, let's get a divorce. The other end of the phone fell completely silent. A long time passed before he asked, as if unable to believe it, what did you say? Divorce? Just because of Xingha? No, I said, because of you. You knew I was scared. You knew I was about to give birth. You knew I had made myself perfectly clear, yet you kept backing down again and again. You did have a choice. You just chose not to stand by my side. Lu Huaizhou's voice trembled. Wan Qing, I never thought of abandoning you and the child. But you never thought about protecting us. After saying that, I hung up the phone. Soon, he started calling frantically. I didn't take it. He sent a message. Let's talk in person. You're emotionally unstable right now. Don't make any decisions. Can I take Xingha back to the county town? Wan Qing, don't joke about marriage. I looked at those messages and felt nothing but exhaustion. I replied to him, I'll have my lawyer send you the divorce papers. If you don't agree, I'll file a lawsuit. After sending it, I temporarily blocked him. I know this is harsh, but I can't give him any more chances to wear me down. At noon, I made an appointment with the maternity care company to reconfirm the service, and contacted the obstetrician to switch the delivery hospital to a private one closer to the new house. I don't want Lu Huaizhou's family to know about my birth plan. In the evening, my mom called me. She could tell something was off in my voice and kept pressing for details. I didn't dare mention those eerie words, only saying that Lu Huaizhou's family wanted us to adopt a child from a relative, and I disagreed, which led to a very unpleasant situation. My mom was instantly furious. You're about to give birth. Have they lost their minds? My dad snatched the phone from her. Wan Qing, where are you staying now? Mom and Dad will come over tomorrow. My nose tingled with emotion. Dad, I'm fine. Even if you're fine, you still need someone with you. The next afternoon, my parents arrived. The moment my mom walked in and saw my swollen eyes, she hugged me and started crying. Silly child, why didn't you say something sooner? Leaning on her shoulder, I finally cried out like a child, full of grievances. My mom patted my back while scolding me. That fool Lu Huaizhou, abandoning his own wife and child to meddle in other people's children's affairs. My father was much calmer. He asked me, have you thought this through? I nodded. I have. Then let's get divorced. My dad said, we'll raise the child together. Don't be afraid. At that moment, my heart, which had been hanging in suspense for so long, finally settled a little. I am not alone. Even if Lu Huaizhou isn't standing behind me, I still have my parents, and I still have myself. At night, the gray text appeared again. Congratulations, you have avoided the first death calamity, but Xingha won't let you off easily. She already knows you've moved away. She wants to see your baby. Looking at the last line of text, my heart suddenly tightened. I touched my belly and said to myself, no, she will never get close to my child in this lifetime. I filed the divorce lawsuit materials very quickly. The lawyer was introduced by my college classmate, surnamed Cheng, with extensive experience in family law cases. After hearing my account, she asked me a very practical question. Do you have evidence to prove that the man forced Xingha to live with him? I sent her the chat records, messages from my mother-in-law, the recording from outside the door, and the audio of Lu Huaizhou admitting that he wanted her to stay for a couple of days. After listening to the recording, Lawyer Cheng frowned. Your father-in-law's words are quite harsh. I smiled bitterly. There are even harsher words, she said. Now that you're in the later stages of pregnancy, the court will usually mediate first. If the husband disagrees, the likelihood of a divorce being granted on the first attempt is not high. I nodded. I know, but I want to start the process. Attorney Cheng glanced at me and said gently, you are very clear-headed. I patted my stomach. After becoming a mother, you have to be clear-headed. On the day the court notified us for mediation, I was already 37 weeks pregnant. When Lu Huaizhou saw me in the mediation room, he had lost a noticeable amount of weight. Dark circles hung under his eyes, and his beard was not properly shaved. Upon noticing my belly, he instinctively moved to support me. I take a step back. His hand froze mid-air, and the light in his eyes instantly dimmed. The mediator asked us to sit down. Lu Huaizhou's first words were, I don't agree to the divorce. His voice was hoarse. I admit I didn't handle this well, but I didn't betray our marriage, nor did I hurt Wan Qing. I just wanted to take care of the child my sister left behind. I'm willing to send Xinghe back to my parents and make sure she never appears in front of Wanqing again. If it were before, I might have believed it, but the gray text before me appeared coldly. A delaying tactic. He says he'll send her away now just to coax you back. Once the child is born, when you're weak, busy, and soft-hearted, he'll let Xinghe get close again. He always thought, she's just a child. I spoke calmly. I insist on getting a divorce. Lu Huaizhou suddenly looked at me, his eyes filled with pain. Wanqing, are you really not giving me any chance at all? I said. I did give you one. From the first time you asked me if I wanted to take in Xinghe, I said no. When your parents brought her to block the door, I also said no. From the moment you suggested she stay for 2 days, I made it clear that if you insisted, I would move out. You heard it every single time. It's just that every time, you believed I would eventually give in. The mediation room fell silent. Lu Huaizhou clenched his hand. I thought it was just a momentary emotion. I looked at him. So that's the problem. You didn't take my fears and boundaries seriously. The mediation was unsuccessful. As I walked out of the courthouse, Lu Huaizhou caught up with me. Wanqing, I stopped in my tracks. He asked in a low voice, will you tell me when the child is born? I looked at him and said after a long while, you are the child's father, and I won't deny the legal relationship, but I won't let you bring anyone who might harm her near her. Lu Huaizhou's face was pale. Xinghe would never hurt her. I smiled. Even now, he still insisted on that. Then we have nothing more to discuss. I turned and got into my dad's car. Before the car door closed, I saw Lu Huaizhou standing at the entrance of the courthouse, motionless, like someone abandoned. My heart still ached a little. After all, I had loved him. After all, I once sincerely hoped to spend my life with him, but the heartache only lasted a few seconds. The daughter in my belly stirred gently. I lowered my head, and all hesitation vanished. I can be sad for love, but I can't be foolish for love. Not long after returning home, my mother-in-law called from an unfamiliar number. I answered and turned on the recording. She started crying as soon as she spoke. Wanqing, how can you be so heartless? Huaizhou hasn't been eating or sleeping well these past few days. Are you trying to drive him to his death? I calmly replied, it was you who forced this. Her voice choked. Then she continued, I've already sent Xinghe back to the county town. Is that enough? I asked. Will she come during her winter and summer vacations in the future? Her mother-in-law fell silent. I continued to ask, is she coming if she's sick? Is she coming if she needs someone to accompany her to school? Is she coming if she cries and says she misses her uncle? My mother-in-law was furious. Do you have to be so harsh? She's just a child. What harm could she possibly do to you? I hung up directly. What could possibly go wrong? It could cost my daughter's life. My labor started at 3 in the morning. At first, my stomach tightened intermittently, and then the pain became regular. My mother immediately woke up my father, grabbed the pre-packed hospital bag, and took me to the hospital. Along the way, I was in so much pain that I was covered in cold sweat, yet I remained unusually calm. I didn't notify Lu Huaizhou. It wasn't out of spite. I didn't want to see his parents at the delivery room door, and I especially didn't want to see Xinghe. At 7 in the morning, I entered the delivery room. Wave after wave of pain washed over me, as if trying to tear me apart, gripping the handrails of the delivery bed. Only one thought remained in my mind, baby, come out, mommy is waiting for you. At 2:16 in the afternoon, my daughter was born. Her cries were loud, her little face all wrinkled, like a freshly washed little peach. The nurse brought her close to my face. Mom, look, she's a beautiful little girl. I turned my head to look at her, and tears instantly welled up. Nian Nian, this was the nickname I had long thought of. May she be remembered and surrounded by love throughout her life. After the delivery, I was wheeled back to the ward. My mother held Nian Nian in her arms, laughing and then crying. My father stood by the window, secretly wiping away tears. At that moment, I felt everything was worth it. On the 3rd day after the child was born, Lu Huaizhou still found out the news. He probably heard it from a mutual friend. He called me from an unfamiliar number. I didn't answer. He sent a message. Wanqing, I know you've given birth. I just want to see the child. I promise to come alone, without anyone else. I looked at the word guarantee and found it glaring. He had made promises before too. I didn't reply. After being discharged from the hospital, I went straight back to my own house. The confinement nanny had already arrived ahead of time, and my mother had tidied up the house in an orderly manner. Nian Nian is very well behaved, eating and sleeping and eating occasionally when she cries. Her voice is soft and gentle. My body isn't recovering very quickly, but with my parents and the Postpartum nanny taking care of me, life isn't as difficult as I imagined. In fact, it's even easier than when I was in the Liu family during my third trimester. No need to worry about the doorbell suddenly ringing, no need to listen to the mother-in-law's complaints, no need to guard against a child who might appear at any moment, and no need to argue repeatedly with the husband, saying, "She's just a child." A month later, I finished my postpartum confinement. Liu Huizhou contacted me again. This time, he didn't call but sent a very long email. He said he thinks about me and the child every day. He said he regrets not handling Xinxingha's matter earlier. He said he has already sent Xinxingha to a boarding school in the county town, where his parents will keep an eye on her. He said he hopes I will drop the lawsuit and give our family a chance. At the end of the email, he wrote, "Wanqing, I love you, and I love our daughter too. I don't want Nian to be born without a complete family." After reading it, I sat in front of the computer for a long time. If I hadn't gone through those things, this email would have been enough to soften my heart, but I am very clear now. A complete family does not equal a safe family. If a father cannot stand up before danger arrives, his presence is not protection but an uncertainty. I replied to him, "I will not withdraw the lawsuit. You may visit the child in accordance with the law, but the visitation method must be within a safe range that I approve." Xinxingha is not allowed to appear. After sending the email, Liu Huizhou did not reply again. A few days later, the gray text appeared again. Liu Huizhou is starting to waver. The new assistant at his company is taking advantage of the situation. Her name is Su Zhixia, young, gentle, and best at saying, "If it were me, I would never put you in such a difficult position." She thinks you're being unreasonable and feels sorry for Xinxingha. She will become Xinxingha's new candidate for mother. I looked at these words, feeling no emotional turmoil inside, even a bit inclined to laugh. If Su Zhixia can really get Liu Huizhou to agree to a divorce, I would be grateful to her. People always have to pay the price for their choices. Liu Huizhou chose to believe in Xinxingha, then he should live his life with those who are willing to accept Xinxingha. As for me, I just need to live well with Nian soon. Lawyer Qing informed me that the second mediation session had been scheduled. She said, the man's attitude might soften this time. I asked, why? Lawyer Qing said meaningfully, his agent has indicated that the man is now willing to discuss terms. After hanging up the phone, I picked up Nian, who had just woken up. She looked at me with her dark, grape-like eyes and suddenly gave a wide grin. I leaned down and kissed her forehead. Nian, mommy will lead you forward. Only those who look back will lose. Before the second mediation, I met Su Zhixia. That day, I took Nian to the hospital for her post-1-month checkup. My mom went with me, while the confinement nanny rested at home. The hospital was crowded, with parents holding their children lining up at the entrance of the pediatric health department. Nian had just received her vaccination and was nestled in my arms, whimpering softly. Her little face was scrunched up, looking as if she had been terribly wronged. I lowered my head to comfort her. All right, mom knows it hurts. Nian is the bravest. She didn't understand, just clenched her little fists, tears still hanging at the corners of her eyes. My mom went to get the report, while I held the child and waited on a bench in the hallway. Just then, a familiar male voice came from ahead, Wanqing. I look up. Liu Huizhou stood not far away, looking even thinner than the last time we met. He was wearing a gray shirt, with the sleeves rolled up to his forearms. His gaze lingered on my face for a moment before shifting to Nian in my arms. In that instant, his eyes turned red. Is she Nian? I instinctively held the child tighter. Liu Huizhou took a step forward, then stopped, perhaps remembering what I had said. He didn't approach recklessly. His voice came out hoarse. Can I see her? Just one look. Before I could speak, a clear voice suddenly came from around the corner of the corridor. Engineer Liu. I've got the registration slip. A young woman walked over quickly. She was wearing a white knitted sweater and light blue jeans, with her hair tied in a low ponytail, looking clean and gentle. She was holding a child by the hand. Xinxingha. My body instantly froze. Xinxingha was wearing a pale yellow dress today, her face somewhat pale and her lips lacking color, as if she were ill. She looked up and saw me, then saw Nian in my arms. In those originally innocent big eyes, a flash of chilling coldness suddenly passed, so fast that if I hadn't been on guard against her all along, would have almost thought it was an illusion. Gray text exploded before my eyes. Hurry up and go. Xinxingha has a fever. She knows that babies have weak immune systems, yet she deliberately coughed into her palm just now. She wants to touch Nian. I immediately stood up, holding Nian. Liu Huizhou also panicked. Wanqing, don't misunderstand. I didn't know you would come to the hospital today. I looked at him coldly. You promised me that Xinxinghe would not appear in front of Nian Nian. Lu Huaizhou's expression turned grim. She had a high fever today, and I brought her to see a doctor. It was truly just a coincidence. Only then did Su Zhixia realize my identity. She looked at me, then at Lu Huaizhou, her eyes growing more complex. Xinxinghe gently shook Lu Huaizhou's hand and whispered, "Uncle, I want to see my little sister." I took a step back. "No, you can't." Xinxinghe's eyes instantly reddened. "Auntie, I won't hurt my sister, I just want to take a look." As she spoke, she actually let go of Lu Huaizhou's hand and walked toward me. I said sternly, "Halt." Many people in the hallway looked over. Xinxinghe seemed frightened, tears falling one after another. Su Zhixia immediately frowned and stepped forward to shield her. "Miss Wen, she's just a child. Is there any need for you to be so harsh?" I looked at her. "Who are you?" Su Zhixia paused and said, "I am a colleague of Engineer Lu." "If you're just a colleague, then shut up." Her face turned pale. Lu Huaizhou frowned unhappily. "Wanqing, Zhixia was just trying to be kind." "Kind?" I looked at him and couldn't help but laugh. "Lu Huaizhou, you really never know where to draw the line. Your colleague brought Xinxinghe to see the doctor and even stepped forward to accuse me of not letting a feverish child get close to my baby. Do you think that's what you call kindness?" Lu Huaizhou was stunned. Su Zhixia couldn't hold back her expression, her tone hardening a bit. "I didn't know her fever was contagious. I just thought the child wanted to see her sister. There was no ill intent." I held Nian tightly, my voice cold as ice. "Whether she has ill intent or not is not for you to decide, my child. When I say no, it means no." Xinxinghe suddenly cried out, "Uncle, does Auntie hate me even more now that she has a little sister?" That sentence was all too familiar to the point where my stomach churned. Lu Huaizhou instinctively wanted to comfort her, his hand lifting halfway before he seemed to remember something. Freezing mid-air, he finally looked at Xinxinghe, his tone carrying a hint of seriousness. "Xinghe, you have a fever, you can't get close to your sister." Xinxinghe was taken aback, probably not expecting Lu Huaizhou to immediately side with her this time. Her tears fell even harder. "I understand. I don't deserve to have a sister." Su Zhixia was heartbroken. "Xinghe, don't say that." Then she looked up at me. "Miss Wen, there's no need to involve children in adult conflicts. Xinghe has already suffered enough." I was just about to speak when my mother returned with the report. She took one look at the scene before her and immediately rushed to stand in front of me. "Who dares come near my granddaughter?" My mother used to be a head nurse when she was younger, and when she puts on a stern face, it carries a lot of authority. Su Zhixia was taken aback by her gaze. My mother glared at Lu Huaizhou. "Lu Huaizhou, have you lost your mind, bringing a feverish child near a newborn?" Lu Huaizhou's face flushed red. "Mom, I didn't. Don't call me Mom." My mother cut him off directly. "I don't want to acknowledge anyone from your Lu family. Wanqing, let's go." She shielded me as we headed toward the elevator. Lu Huaizhou tried to follow, but my mother shot him a glare. "If you take another step, I'll call the police right now." After returning home that day, I called Lawyer Cheng and told her about what happened at the hospital. Lawyer Cheng was silent for a few seconds before saying, "This will be very helpful for you in seeking restricted visitation rights." I hummed in agreement. After hanging up the phone, I held Nian Nian and sat on the balcony to bask in the sun. She was full and sleeping soundly, her mouth slightly open, breathing as light as a feather. I looked at her, waves of lingering fear surging in my heart. If I hadn't seen the gray text today, if I had softened and let Xinxinghe touch her, if she really passes the virus to Nian Nian, what will be the consequences? I dare not think. Gray text slowly appears. "You did the right thing. Some dangers don't need to happen to be considered evidence. True protection is blocking danger before it gets close." I lowered my head and kissed Nian Nian. Yes, I would rather be called cold-blooded than hold my child and regret it. During the second mediation session, Lu Huaizhou had clearly changed. He no longer insisted on not getting divorced as he had during the first session. He sat across from me with a document placed beside his hand. The mediator asked as usual, "What is the man's current opinion?" Lu Huaizhou remained silent for a long time before saying, "I agree to the divorce." I am not surprised. The gray text had already warned me. Su Zhixia had already placed herself in the role of the Redeemer. She was young, admired Lu Huaizhou, sympathized with his difficulties, understood his responsibilities, and was even willing to take care of Xinxinghe. For Lu Huaizhou, trapped in a failed marriage, this sense of being understood was too tempting, especially since she had once said something. When the gray text was relayed to me, I almost laughed out loud. "If it were me, I wouldn't let you suffer so much between family and love." how considerate, how kind, how perfect for taking over Shinshingha. The mediator then asked for my opinion. I said, I also agree to divorce. The division of property was straightforward. Premarital property remains with each individual. Joint savings after marriage are to be split equally. For the house that Lu Huaizhou owned before marriage, the portion of the mortgage paid off during the marriage and the appreciation in value are to be calculated and compensated to me. The car goes to him, and he will compensate me for half of the difference in value. The custody of Nian Nian is awarded to me. Regarding child support, Lu Huaizhou voluntarily proposed to provide 8,000 yuan per month until the child turns 18. Educational and major medical expenses will be shared equally on a separate basis. I did not make a fuss about it. This is what Nian Nian deserves. The only point of contention is visitation. Lu Huaizhou requested to visit twice a month and to take the child out alone. I directly refused. Visitation must take place at locations I designate before the child turns 3. The child must not be taken out of my sight. Shinshingha and other relatives of the Lu family are not permitted to accompany. Visitation will be suspended for 1 week following the child's illness or vaccination. Lu Huaizhou frowned. You don't trust me? I looked at him calmly. Yes. The mediation room fell silent for a moment. Lu Huaizhou seemed to be struck by that one word, his face turning pale. Wan Qing, I am Nian Nian's father. Of course you are, I said. That's why I agree to your visitation rights and won't stop you from taking on your legal responsibilities. But when it comes to protecting our child, you've shown too many behaviors that make it impossible for me to trust you. That day at the hospital, if I hadn't stopped her, Shinshingha would have already gotten close to Nian Nian. She had a fever at the time. Do you know the risks of a baby contracting a virus? Lu Huaizhou lowered his head. He could not refute it. Attorney Ching handed over the pre-prepared records. This includes the hospital monitoring application records, child health vaccination certificates, and the on-site statement from the mother of the woman. The conditions proposed by the woman are based on considerations for the health and safety of the minor, not malicious obstruction. The mediator reviewed the documents and also advised Lu Huaizhou, the child is too young, so it's reasonable to be cautious about visitation arrangements. Lu Huaizhou eventually signed the agreement. At the moment of signing, I didn't feel the relief I had imagined. Instead, it was very calm. It felt like a rope that had been tightening around my neck was finally loosening. After leaving the mediation room, Lu Huaizhou called out to me, Wan Qing. I stopped. He asked, can we really not go back? I looked at him. This person was once the one I trusted the most. I held his hand at the wedding, listening to him promise to protect me for a lifetime. Protection was never just a vow. It's about who you choose to stand in front of when danger comes. I said, it's too late. His eyes reddened. I understand now that I was wrong. You didn't just realize it now, you only felt it was wrong after you lost me. These words made him freeze. I didn't say anything more, because there's no need. On the day the 1-month cooling-off period ended, we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get our divorce certificate. Su Zhixia came too. She stood at the entrance of the hall, holding 2 cups of coffee. When she saw me, she was clearly a bit embarrassed, but soon she raised a gentle smile again. Miss Wen, I nodded. She looked at Lu Huaizhou, her tone affectionate. Engineer Lu, I'll wait for you outside. I paid no attention. The process of obtaining the certificate was quick. When the staff handed me the divorce certificate, I opened it and took a look. A small red booklet, just as red as the marriage certificate. It's just that the meaning is completely opposite. I put the divorce certificate in my bag and turned to walk out. Lu Huaizhou followed behind me. Wan Qing, Nian Nian, according to the agreement, his Adam's apple bobbed. Okay. At the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Su Zhixia approached. She glanced at the divorce certificate in my hand, her eyes flickering. That's not guilt, it's an uncontrollable anticipation. Gray text drifts slowly before my eyes. She's pregnant, 6 weeks. Lu Huaizhou doesn't know yet. I paused in my steps. Su Zhixia seemed to have misunderstood my hesitation. She gently touched her still flat abdomen, a hint of victorious restraint on her face. Miss Wen, there are some things I probably shouldn't say, but Mr. Lu really has it tough. He's just too loyal. He shouldn't have been pushed to this point by you. I looked at her and suddenly felt a bit ridiculous. Su Zhixia, she was taken aback, not expecting me to know her name. I said, you think you understand him well, and Shinshingha too, don't you? She pursed her lips. At the very least, I wouldn't harbor malicious assumptions about a child who has lost their parents. I nodded. Very good. Then I wish your family eternal love and harmony. With that, I descended the steps, but halfway down, I stopped. Not for her, for the child that might already exist. I turned around and looked at Su Zhixia. One last reminder for you. if you really want to be with Lu Huizhou, don't let Shen Xinghe get close to your child. Su Zhixia's expression changed slightly. What do you mean? Lu Huizhou also frowned. Wan Qing, don't say such things again. I looked at him, my eyes devoid of any warmth. Believe it or not, anyway, from now on, it has nothing to do with me. After the divorce, my life actually became more stable. Nian Nian grew day by day, her skin turned fairer, her little face became rounder, and her eyes grew brighter and brighter. She was already smiling at me when she was 2 months old. At 3 months, she would babble and chat with me every time I came home from work. She would hear my voice and kick her legs in the nanny's arms. That feeling of being wholeheartedly needed was enough to heal many wounds. After my maternity leave, I returned to work at my original company. My position remained unchanged, only the work pace was temporarily adjusted to be more flexible. My boss is a straightforward woman. After learning that I was divorced and raising a child, she didn't offer any empty words of comfort, but simply told me, if you encounter difficulties at work, speak up in advance, don't force yourself to endure them. I am very grateful. During the day, I work hard. At night, I accompany Nian Nian for bath time, read picture books, and put her to sleep. On weekends, I take her to the park to enjoy the sunshine. My parents come over every now and then, so there's always hot soup and fresh fruit at home. Life is busy and tiring, but it feels solid. Lu Huizhou, as per the agreement, transfers the child support on time every month. The first visitation was arranged at a parent-child center. I booked a private room in advance. Attorney Qing advised me to accompany them throughout and have staff nearby. Lu Huizhou arrived early. He was carrying a bag of baby toys and several sets of clothes. When he saw Nian Nian, his eyes instantly reddened. Nian Nian was still young back then, not recognizing people, just staring at him with her big, round eyes. Lu Huizhou carefully picked her up. His movements were clumsy, yet gentle. At that moment, I felt a bit complicated inside. He doesn't not love Nian Nian, it's just that his love is too soft, too wavering, unable to protect the child. After the visit ended, he handed Nian Nian back to me and whispered, "She looks like you." I held Nian Nian. "Her eyes are like yours." Lu Huizhou was stunned for a moment, a faint glimmer flickering in his eyes, but I quickly looked away. There was no turning back between us. During the second visit, Lu Huizhou told me that he and Su Zhixia had registered their marriage. I am not surprised. The gray text told me before he did. After Su Zhixia became pregnant, Lu Huizhou was still hesitant, but once his parents found out, they immediately urged him to take responsibility. They need a new grandchild to dilute the sense of loss of control brought by Shen Jianing's death and my divorce, which took Nian Nian away. Su Zhixia is also very clever. She didn't cry or make a fuss, just said with red eyes, "The child is innocent." Lu Huizhou ultimately married her. When he told me about this, he was observing my expression, probably thinking I would be sad or angry, but I just nodded, "Congratulations." He smiled bitterly. "You really don't care at all anymore." I thought for a moment and said, "It's not that I never cared, it's already in the past." He remained silent for a long time. After the visit that day, he suddenly said, "Xinghe really likes Zhixia now." I said calmly, "Is that so? Zhixia treats her very well." "Good." Lu Huizhou looked at me, as if trying to detect a hint of jealousy or resentment on my face. "What a pity there wasn't." He then said, "Zhixia is pregnant." I finally looked at him. "Then you should remember what I said earlier even more." His expression darkened. "Wan Qing, Xinghe is not what you think." I almost wanted to laugh. After all that, he still says this, but I can't be bothered to argue. Suit yourself. Gray text appears. The first miscarriage for Su Zhixia will occur in 2 weeks. Location, Lu Huizhou's kitchen. Shen Xinghe will pour half a cup of cooking oil on the floor. She will say that Su Zhixia was careless herself. My arms tightened around Nian Nian. "I don't like Su Zhixia." She approached Lu Huizhou while my marriage was still ongoing, putting on a gentle and understanding demeanor, and even once stood on Shen Xinghe's side to criticize me. "But the child in her belly is innocent." I hesitated all night. Finally, I sent a text message to Su Zhixia. She had contacted me once before using an unfamiliar number, trying to persuade me to let go of the past and not affect Lu Huizhou. I kept the number. I wrote, "Kitchen, bathroom, stairwell, watch out for slippery floors, especially when Shen Xinghe is around." After sending it, Su Zhixia quickly replied, "When Wan Qing, are you serious? I know you're not willing to accept it, but cursing a pregnant woman is just too malicious." I stared at the screen and didn't reply again. The warning had been given. Whether she believed it or not was her own business. 2 weeks later, gray text appeared. Su Zhixia fell. The child was not saved. She saw oil on the floor, but Lu Huizhou said it might have been spilled when she was cooking. Shen Xinghe cried very sadly, saying it was all her fault for not helping to clean the kitchen. I closed my eyes. Some people's fate isn't that others didn't warn them, it's that she herself refused to believe. After Su Zhixia had a miscarriage, Lu Huizhou didn't come to visit Nian for a long time. He sent me a message saying something had happened at home and the visit would be postponed. I didn't ask for details. Nian was already 6 months old at that time, able to roll over and reach out to grab my hair. Her world was clean and bright, and it shouldn't be disturbed by those dark people and things. But occasionally, the gray text would bring news of the Lu family before my eyes. After Su Zhixia had a miscarriage, her body was very weak. For the first time, she began to suspect Shen Xinghe, because the oil on the kitchen floor that day was too conspicuous. She clearly remembered that she hadn't opened the oil bottle before entering the kitchen, nor had she prepared any dishes that required oil. But Lu Huizhou didn't believe it. He said, "Xinghe was doing homework in the living room all day." Su Zhixia asked, "Did you see it with your own eyes?" Lu Huizhou remained silent. Shen Xinghe apologized tearfully. "Auntie, is it because I don't have a mother that you suspect me? If my presence makes you and uncle unhappy, I can leave." This move still works on Lu Huizhou. It works even better on the in-laws. Mother-in-law hugged Shen Xinghe and cried, saying she had a hard life. The father-in-law scolded Su Zhixia for making a big deal out of nothing, saying she hadn't stood firm herself and was blaming a child. Su Zhixia tasted for the first time the bitterness I once endured. In that household, she became an outsider, but she was even more unwilling to accept it than I had been back then. She was young and had just lost her child, and her suspicion of Shen Xinghe was like a thorn that, once lodged in her heart, could never be pulled out. Half a year later, Su Zhixia became pregnant again. This time, she didn't tell Lu Huizhou right away. She secretly went to the hospital to register, secretly took folic acid, and secretly hid all the examination reports. She started installing surveillance cameras at home, in the living room, kitchen, hallway, balcony, and even at the bedroom door. But she didn't dare install one in Shen Xinghe's room, because if Lu Huizhou found out, she wouldn't be able to explain it. As the gray text said this, I was feeding Nian her complimentary food. Nian had pumpkin puree all over her mouth and was grinning at me. I wiped her mouth with a tissue, but my heart felt heavy. Su Zhixia was finally starting to be on guard, but guarding against a child who lives under the same roof and is favored by everyone, how could that be easy? Lu Huizhou resumed his visits when Nian was 9 months old. He looked even more haggard. While holding Nian in his arms, he suddenly asked me, "Wan Qing, why were you so certain back then that Xinghe would harm Nian?" I paused in my actions. I looked at him. His expression was no longer as confident as before. Instead, it carried a sense of belated confusion. I didn't answer, only asking, "What happened?" Lu Huizhou remained silent. A long time later, he said, "Zhixia suspects that the last miscarriage is related to Xinghe." I calmly asked, "Do you believe it?" He instinctively said, "Xinghe wouldn't." He stopped himself halfway through the sentence. I looked at him and suddenly felt a sense of sorrow. Some truths aren't without traces. It's just that admitting the truth is more painful than continuing to believe. If Shen Xinghe really had a problem, then all his soft-heartedness, favoritism, and indulgence over the years would have turned into handing over the knife. He didn't dare to face it. I said, "Lu Huizhou, asking me why I'm certain is meaningless. You should ask yourself why you've never dared to doubt." His face turned deathly pale. When the visit ended, he stood at the door for a long time without leaving. "Wan Qing, if I had listened to you back then," I interrupted him. "There is no if. You have a new wife now, and you might have new children too. You should protect them." He looked up at me. "Are you reminding me?" I said, "I'm reminding a father. Don't wait until it's too late." After Lu Huizhou left, I thought he would take some action, but the gray text told me that after returning home, he only subtly asked Shen Xinghe a few questions. Shen Xinghe cried so hard she could barely catch her breath. She said, "Uncle, do you also think I'm a bad kid? Does everyone not want me anymore? Then I might as well die." Lu Huizhou was completely defeated. He even turned around to persuade Su Zhixia, "You're pregnant, don't overthink things." Su Zhixia agreed on the surface, but secretly installed the surveillance cameras even more discreetly. I know the real explosion is about to happen. Su Zhixia lost her second child. The day the gray text appeared was a rainy evening. I had just picked up Nian from the early education center. She is 1 year and 2 months old, already able to walk while holding onto the sofa. After returning home, she hugged my leg and called out, "Mommy," her voice soft and sweet. As I crouched down to kiss her, gray text suddenly appeared line by line. Su Jixia has fallen. This time it was in the bathroom. There was shampoo on the floor. She was 20 weeks pregnant, and the baby was gone. I closed my eyes. It felt like a heavy stone was pressing on my chest. I am not gloating even though I don't like Su Jixia. I can't remain indifferent to a mother losing her child. Moreover, all of this could have been avoided. That night, Lu Huaizhou did not contact me, but the gray text intermittently told me what happened next. After Su Jixia woke up in the hospital, she almost went completely mad. She grabbed Lu Huaizhou by the collar and asked, "Was it her? Is it Shen Xinghe? How long are you going to keep protecting her?" Lu Huaizhou's face was filled with pain, yet he still couldn't bring himself to say anything definitive. There were no surveillance cameras in the bathroom. Shen Xinghe did indeed enter the bathroom that day, but she claimed she only went in to wash her hands. She cried and swore, "Uncle, I really didn't harm my brother. I was also looking forward to my brother's birth." Su Jixia sneered and asked, "How do you know it's a younger brother?" Shen Xinghe was stunned for a moment, then quickly started crying again. "Grandma told me. Grandma has indeed been hoping for a grandson." This explanation seems reasonable, but Su Jixia no longer believes it. After being discharged from the hospital, she didn't return to the Lu family home but went back to her parents' house instead. Lu Huaizhou went to pick her up, but she wouldn't open the door. Her mother-in-law called to scold her for being overly sensitive, and she immediately blocked the number. This time, she didn't turn back as easily as she had before. 2 months later, Su Jixia filed for divorce. Lu Huaizhou did not agree, however. Su Jixia had some evidence in hand, although it couldn't prove that Shen Xinghe intentionally caused her miscarriage. It could prove that the Lu family continuously pressured and verbally humiliated her during her pregnancy, and that Lu Huaizhou failed to fulfill his duty of care. More importantly, she had completely lost hope in that marriage. I wasn't surprised when I heard the news. I just didn't expect Su Jixia to call me so soon. Looking at the unfamiliar yet familiar number on the screen, I hesitated for a moment before answering. On the other end of the line, her voice was terribly hoarse. When Wan Qing, she remained silent for a long time before finally saying, "You warned me back then because you really knew something, didn't you?" I neither admitted nor denied it. She let out a low laugh, but as she laughed, tears began to fall. "I used to think you were cold-blooded, that you were immature. I also thought I was gentler, kinder, and more suitable for Lu Huaizhou than you. Looking back now, I was so foolish." I didn't respond. She continued, "I've lost both of my children. The first one fell in the kitchen, the second one fell in the bathroom. Every time Shen Xinghe was at home, every time she had an excuse, every time Lu Huaizhou didn't believe me. When Wan Qing, how did you make up your mind to leave back then?" I watched Nyanyan playing with building blocks on the floor mat. She holds a yellow block, trying hard to place it on the tower. It tilts, and she carefully straightens it. I said, "Because I have more important people to protect." Su Jixia's crying stops. A long time later, she said, "I used to have one too." Those words made my heart ache a little. She wasn't so innocent as to be flawless. Losing a child is already cruel enough in itself. She asked me, "Do you think I can make Shen Xinghe pay the price?" "I'll be honest, it's difficult. She's too young, and you have no direct evidence." Su Jixia's voice turned cold. "Then I'll find the evidence." Before hanging up the phone, she said, "When Wan Qing, I'm sorry." I held the phone, unmoving for a long time. A belated apology cannot change the past, but at least it shows that she has finally seen clearly, and seeing the truth is often the first step toward fighting back. Gray text appears. Su Jixia will leave Lu Huaizhou, but she will leave the last surveillance camera. What truly tore off Shen Xinghe's mask was not the arguments among the adults, it was Shen Xinghe's third strike, which she thought no one had seen. Su Jixia and Lu Huaizhou's divorce went more smoothly than I had imagined. She had no children and no complicated property entanglements. As long as she remained resolute, Lu Huaizhou would not be able to delay for too long, no matter how unwilling he was. On the day of the divorce, she didn't inform anyone. After completing the formalities, she moved out of the Lu family home directly. She only took her own clothes, documents, and a few pieces of jewelry. She left everything else behind. Her mother-in-law scolded her over the phone, calling her heartless and saying the Lu family had been unlucky, marrying 2 troublesome women in a row. Su Jixia didn't hold back this time. She coldly replied, "The most trouble-free child in your Lu family will eventually be the death of you all." Then she blocked everyone. When these words reached Lu Huaizhou's ears, he was both angry and exhausted. He feels like everyone is pushing him, me, Su Jixia, even his parents. But he never considered that what truly pushed everyone to this point was his repeated refusal to face the truth. After Su Jixia left, Shen Xinghe became the only child in the Lu family. Her mother-in-law felt even more pity for her. Her father-in-law often said, Xinghe is still the sensible one, not like those other women, each with more schemes than a sieve. Shen Xinghe regained all the attention. Logically speaking, she should be content, yet the gray text tells me she is not, because Lu Huaizhou has changed. Although he hasn't sent her away, he no longer trusts her as unreservedly as he once did. He started installing surveillance cameras at home. He would lock the study and balcony doors. He no longer allowed Shen Xinghe to enter the kitchen freely. He even hid all the medicine and knives in the house. These changes are subtle, yet they are enough to sting Shen Xinghe. What she finds most unbearable is when adults shift from completely trusting her to secretly guarding against her. The gray text says, she felt that Lu Huaizhou had betrayed her. In her logic, she lost her parents, so everyone should compensate her. Lu Huaizhou had promised to treat her as his own daughter. A biological daughter should be the only one. I look at these words, my heart turning cold. It turns out that some evils are not momentary impulses, but rather a complete, twisted, and self-consistent set of rules. She takes everyone's love for granted. Whoever fails to satisfy her is a traitor. The surveillance camera left by Su Zhixia was hidden behind the decorative painting in the living room. She installed it on the last day before she moved out, because she knew that the new cameras Lu Huaizhou had installed were all in plain sight. Shen Xinghe is clever, she'll find the blind spots sooner or later. The angle behind the decorative painting just happens to capture the living room, the balcony door, and the staircase entrance. That night, Lu Huaizhou had been drinking ever since Su Zhixia left. He had started suffering from frequent insomnia. The Design Institute project is stressful, and coming home to face his parents' complaints and Shen Xinghe's excessive dependence, he feels completely drained. He sits on the living room sofa, having drunk half a bottle of red wine. Shen Xinghe walks over with a glass of warm water. Uncle, stop drinking, have some water instead. Lu Huaizhou looked up at her. The girl was already 11 years old, her features growing more beautiful. If judged solely by appearance, she still seemed like a well-behaved and sensible child. Lu Huaizhou took the water and suddenly asked, Xinghe, tell your uncle the truth. Does Zhixia's two falls have anything to do with you? Shen Xinghe's expression froze for a moment, then her eyes reddened. Uncle, you still doubt me? Lu Huaizhou wearily closed his eyes. I just want to hear the truth. The truth is, there isn't any, Shen Xinghe whispered. Why don't any of you believe me? Lu Huaizhou didn't comfort her immediately as he used to. He only said, Xinghe, if you're feeling upset inside, you can tell your uncle, but you can't hurt others. Shen Xinghe stared at him for a long time. Suddenly, she smiled. The smile was faint, yet it sent a chill down one's spine. Uncle, do you regret taking me in? Lu Huaizhou was taken aback. No, you do. Her voice grew colder. After you and Auntie had Nian, you didn't want me anymore. After Su Zhixia got pregnant, you also wanted to drive me away. Now even you are guarding against me. Lu Huaizhou finally sensed something was wrong. Xinghe. Shen Xinghe stood up and took a step back. The stairwell was right behind her. Lu Huaizhou, fearing she might do something foolish, quickly stood up to pull her back, but he had been drinking, and his steps were unsteady. Just as his hand was about to touch Shen Xinghe, she suddenly turned sideways and pushed him hard. Lu Huaizhou tumbled down the stairs. The sound was dull, one thud after another. Finally, he crashed into the corner of the first floor and fell silent. Shen Xinghe stood at the top of the stairs, watching him quietly. Didn't cry, didn't call for help. She just whispered softly, you all broke your promises. He deserves to be punished. All of this was captured by the surveillance camera Su Zhixia had left behind. 10 minutes later, the mother-in-law got up in the middle of the night and found Lu Huaizhou collapsed downstairs, screaming in fright. The ambulance arrived. The police also arrived. Shen Xinghe initially continued to cry as if she had suffered an immense injustice. She claimed her uncle was drunk and fell down the stairs on his own. It wasn't until Su Zhixia sent that surveillance footage to the police that the mask finally shattered. Lu Huaizhou didn't die, but he fell heavily. Intracranial hemorrhage, rib fractures, spinal cord injury. After a night of emergency treatment, his life was saved, but he could never stand up again. The doctor said the likelihood of lower body paralysis is extremely high. I received the news while celebrating Nianyan's second birthday. She was wearing a pink birthday hat, sitting in her little high chair, reaching for the strawberry on the cake. My mom answered a phone call, and her expression turned very complicated. She looked at me, hesitating to speak. I wiped the strawberry clean from Nianyan's hand and softly asked, did something happen to Lu Huaizhou? My mother froze. How did you know? I didn't explain, the gray text has already told me. It also told me that Shen Xinghe was taken away for investigation, but because she is under the age of criminal responsibility and did not cause Lu Huaizhou's death, she will most likely be sent to a specialized school for corrective education. This outcome is not satisfactory, but reality is often like this. Bad people don't stop being bad just because they're young. The law, however, must draw the line by age. I fell silent for a moment and said, let's have the cake first for Nian Nian's birthday. My mother sighed and didn't say anything more. In the evening, after Nian Nian fell asleep, I sat in the living room, gazing at the lights outside the window. The message from Lu Huaizhou was sent to me by Su Zhixia, she said. Shen Xinghe admitted it. She admitted that she was the one who poured the oil in the kitchen and squeezed the shampoo in the bathroom. She also admitted that the car accident involving Shen Jianing was not her doing, but the reason Shen Jianing lost her second child was because she placed glass beads on the stairs. She said that Shen Jianing is not her biological mother and shouldn't have had another child. I looked at these lines of text, my fingers turning cold. So the gray text hadn't lied to me. Shen Jianing wasn't her first target, nor was she the last. Su Zhixia sent another message. I didn't believe you before. I paid the price. Lu Huaizhou also paid the price. You protected Nian Nian. That was right. I replied to her, live well from now on. After a long time, she replied, yes. On the day Shen Xinghe was taken away, my mother-in-law cried until she fainted at the entrance of the institution. My father-in-law, however, did not cry. He seemed to have aged 10 years overnight, sitting on the steps, smoking one cigarette after another. He had been domineering all his life. He had scolded me, pressured Lu Huaizhou, and protected Shen Xinghe as if she were a child the Lu family owed, but in the end, what he protected turned out to be a knife aimed at his own son. After Lu Huaizhou woke up, he couldn't accept reality for a long time. He couldn't accept that he was paralyzed. Even more, he couldn't accept that the person who harmed him was Shen Xinghe. He lay on the hospital bed, repeatedly asking his grandmother, why did she do this? No one could answer, because Shen Xinghe's logic could never be truly understood by a normal person. A month later, Lu Huaizhou contacted me through lawyer Cheng. He said he wanted to see me. I declined. He also said he wanted to see Nian Nian. I agreed, but the location would still be the parent-child center, and the visit would need to be arranged after he was physically able, accompanied by a caregiver, with no other members of the Lu family present. 6 months later, he came to see Nian Nian in a wheelchair. Nian Nian was already 2.5 years old and could speak many words. When she saw Lu Huaizhou, she felt a bit unfamiliar and hid behind me. Lu Huaizhou's eyes turned red. He took out a cloth doll and spoke softly. Nian Nian, I'm Daddy. Nian Nian looked up at me. I crouched down and said to her, this is Daddy. Nian Nian carefully took the cloth doll and said, thank you, Daddy. Lu Huaizhou instantly burst into tears. After the visit that day, he said many apologies to me. Wan Qing, I was wrong, I was really wrong. If I had listened to you back then, none of this would have happened. Looking at him sitting in the wheelchair, I felt no satisfaction in my heart, only a faint sense of sorrow remains. Lu Huaizhou, the mistake has already been made. You should be grateful that you still have a chance to make it up to Nian Nian, but you and I will never be possible again. He lowered his head, tears falling onto the back of his hand. I know. Later, Lu Huaizhou sold the house he owned before marriage and moved to a rehabilitation apartment with better care facilities. He arranged for most of his savings. A portion was set aside as Nian Nian's education fund. A portion was given to Su Zhixia as compensation for her 2 children. The remainder was used to cover his own rehabilitation and his parents' retirement. Su Zhixia did not accept all of it. She only took a small portion and later left the city, heading south. I heard she went back to school and became a licensed psychological counselor. Maybe she wanted to save herself, or maybe she wanted to save others. After Lu Huaizhou's incident, my father-in-law's health rapidly deteriorated. He no longer had the energy to point fingers and scold others like he used to. Once, he sent someone to tell me that he wanted to see Nian Nian. I declined, not for revenge. It's unnecessary. Nian Nian doesn't need to know someone who once insulted her mother and forced her mother into danger. My mother-in-law came to see me later. She stood at the entrance of the residential complex, her hair mostly gray, crying and saying she wanted to see her granddaughter. I didn't let her in, through the security gate. I only said one thing. Did you ever consider that I was also a mother about to give birth when you forced me to take in Shen Xinghe back then? She cried so hard she couldn't speak. I hung up the intercom phone and turned to go back inside. Nian Nian was lying on the floor mat, drawing. She painted the sun red and drew me as a grown-up with messy hair. Seeing me, she held up the drawing. Mom, this is you? I smiled and picked her up. Is Mom really that pretty? She nodded earnestly. Mom is the prettiest. At that moment, all the gloom was swept away by her smile. A few years later, Shen Xinghe came out of the correctional school. She was already 16 years old. No one in the Lu family dared to take her in. Her in-laws were old and afraid of her. Lu Huaizhou was even more afraid. In the end, she was arranged to stay with distant relatives. The last time the gray text appeared was the year Nian Nian started elementary school. The story has been completely rewritten. May Nian Nian grow up safe and sound. You didn't fall from the building, didn't lose your child, and weren't consumed by guilt. Shen Xinghe no longer has your life. I stood at the entrance of the elementary school, watching Nian Nian run toward me with her backpack. She had 2 little braids, and the sunlight fell on her face, shining as bright as spring. She threw herself into my arms, chattering about how her teacher praised her for having beautiful handwriting today. I held her hand and walked home. The leaves of the roadside plane trees rustled in the wind. I suddenly remembered the gray words that abruptly appeared at the hospital entrance many years ago. Without them, my life would have descended into another abyss. But I also know that what truly saved me wasn't just those reminders, it was my choice to trust my own fear. Even when everyone said, she's just a child, it was me, who, when everyone accused me of being cold-blooded, still fiercely protected my own daughter. A woman's life is always expected to be sensible, understanding, and yielding, but I only realized later, some doors, once opened, let in more than just one person and endless consumption, danger, and regret. So when danger knocks, not opening the door is the greatest kindness. Be kind to yourself, be kind to your children, be kind to the rest of your life. I look down at Nian Nian. She looks up at me and asks, Mommy, what are you smiling about? I gently squeeze her soft little hand. Mom is thinking about making sweet and sour pork ribs for you tonight. She cheered. Long live Mom. The sunset stretched our shadows very long. The road ahead will still be tough, with storms and countless trivial yet real challenges, but I am not afraid anymore, because I have already taken the most important person out of that doomed to collapse story with my own hands. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.